Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sherry Bell, president of Camosun College, and I'd like to welcome you to our second virtual forum. We were hoping to have our board chair here to wish you well and give a few opening remarks, but he's having technical difficulties. So Monty might just pop in the middle of the forum to have a chat as well. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Lekwungen and Wasanich people whose traditional territories we work and learn on together. At this point, I would be passing it over to Monty, but I'm going to start with my few opening remarks. And I think, when I think back to the last time we did this, we came together in June for a virtual forum, we were so concerned about COVID-19 and our response to COVID-19 as a college. And we received a lot of questions and concerns, but we also heard from our college community, in particular around Black Lives Matters and anti-racism and EDI. And so I want to just tell you a little bit about where we're going, what we're doing as a college to address some of those incredibly important issues. Of course, we have an equity, diversity, and inclusion policy that guides us as a college that was approved by our board over a year and a half ago. And we are one of 5 colleges across the country who are part of a post-secondary project called the Dimensions Project. And the Camosun Project is being led by John Boris. And the project will look at all different aspects of equity, diversity, inclusion, from our hiring practices to systemic racism, to gender bias, to the digital divide. And the projects are really in their infancy right now. And I look forward to having John and others share what we're doing as a college to address these incredibly timely and important topics. This week is Thrive Week, and mental health is something that we're also concerned about for our students, our colleagues, our community during COVID-19. It seems to, we're emotionally living in a different world. And with Thrive Week at Camosun, there are some virtual workshops and information online. So please make sure that you do check it out. Today, I'm at Lansdowne in my office. I spend probably half of my time at home. I've moved from the kitchen table. I now have an actual office in an old bedroom. And I spend time at Lansdowne, at home, and at Interurban. And I did a little walkabout today at Lansdowne during the foggy time. And there weren't a lot of people here. There's some people working, of course, and our library is open. But Interurban, there's a lot more kind of hustle and bustle with students. And when we look at our Safe Start process, I think we've done a really good job in ensuring that people come back to campus in a balanced way, in a safe way. And when we're looking at the data as far as how many instructors have applied to have portions of their course be face-to-face, it's all around hands-on learning or equipment that they can't access unless they have some face-to-face time. So about 25 to 30% of all of our courses right now at Camosun have a portion that are on campus. And I just saw some dental students walk by my office. And so you can see the kinds of courses that are having a portion of their course online. And as a college, we hope to move forward and gradually open more services and very, very carefully and slowly and gradually eventually get back to the way we were before, but it's going to take time and support, of course, from our provincial and local health officers. So thank you and welcome to the forum.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for that opening, Sherry. My name is Jen Stone, and I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the college, and will soon be also moving into the role of Acting Director of Continuing Education and Contract Training. Today's virtual college gathering is intended to give everyone an opportunity to ask the college executives questions on any topic. We've gathered a few questions that were submitted in advance to kick things off, and after that, we'll address questions submitted in the chat function. So this time, we won't be publishing any anonymous comments or questions in the chat. And in the event that you like, in this event, you can actually like questions that are submitted, and that will bring them to the top of the chat panel. Rodney Porter, the Executive Director of Comms and Marketing, he will be monitoring the chat for questions to ask in the second part of this event. So we've scheduled this virtual gathering for about 1 hour, and it is being recorded. So now we have a few questions that we're going to ask. So I'm just going to pop Sherry back on the screen and we'll get right into asking those questions. So first question, Sherry, is as COVID-19 numbers in BC rise, are there considerations for a possible shutdown similar to what happened in March?
Thanks, Jen. Well, I know the numbers are rising, but when you listen to our provincial health officer, it also sounds like we're leveling out. We're not having the same kind of issues that perhaps other provinces are having right now. But we have to be ready for everything. I'm hoping that we won't have to go to a complete shutdown, but that, of course, would be in conjunction with our provincial health officer. What we're hoping to do is to gradually add services and students back to campus. But if we had to go completely remote, I think we know how to do that. We did that in March, and if we had to, we would do it again.
Thank you. Okay. Second question that was submitted says, I'm curious about your takeaways from the college from the recent CI-CAN perspective sessions that you co-hosted on rebuilding a sustainable economy in crisis.
So last week I had the privilege of interviewing 3 scholars, Canadian leaders in green economy and for CI-CAN. And, we had a great dialogue, and there were a lot of takeaways for me. Whoever asked the question must have watched it, because I was writing notes down saying, this is so good. I'm learning so much from their comments. But I think one of the comments that they made was, somebody said, well, we're going to build back better. And another panelist said, I like the phrase, we're going to build forward better. And I think that's what we need to be doing. And my takeaway is, as we build back the economy, both you hear that provincially and federally, with stimulus packages and right now election promises for the federal and the provincial economies. I think it's a great opportunity for us as a college and for colleges in Canada to play a role in that. To play a role in building the green economy, to be flexible, to work with local industries. Some of the comments that were made on the panel was that, colleges have that deep embedded root in the community, and we respond to our industry and businesses within our communities. And I look at it from 3 different perspectives, not just the economy, but it's the green portions of economy, the sustainability of the economy, the sustainability of the environment, and also social sustainability. And that's where we also play a key role with our access programs. So there's a lot of takeaways as far as how we as a college can help our province and our country. We're set to do that, and I'm excited to look forward as we build.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, next question is, at what point will classes be allowed to go back face-to-face full-time? Why are public schools all having students back in class but not post-secondary? And why are colleges and universities being treated differently or choosing not to go back? And are geographic considerations being weighed as far as risk concerns go?
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah,
Whoever put that one forward, there's a lot of questions. But I think how I'll address it is, When you look at K to 12, for example, there are differences. They can organize in small bubbles. When you look at that population, right now, only of the school K to 12 school age population is only 10% of the COVID cases. So it is a bit of a different look. And the complexity of a post-secondary compared to a single elementary school or a single high school is quite large. And I think that in conversations with our ministry and my post-secondary colleagues, we're all doing this in a gradual way. If you look at our Safe Start process, it was cumbersome at the beginning, but we've actually, I think, have quite a good way of looking at, all right, what needs to be back on campus. And we've gradually been adding a little bit to the services, for example, our libraries, our fitness center at Lansdowne. We're adding a little bit back in a really gradual way. And of course, we take direction from the Provincial Health Office and the Go Forward plan. So I can't answer when we'll be back face to face for all classes, but as I said in my intro, we're there for about 30% of the classes, and again, that's just a portion of it. So hopefully we'll just keep moving forward.
All right, thank you, Sherry. So next question is on one of my favorite topics. The 50th anniversary of the college is coming up. Can you tell us more about it?
Well, that's a great topic. I think the plans are going to have to be flexible because we don't really know how we can celebrate. What we do know is we're going to find ways to honor our 50-year past, to celebrate the present, and look forward to the future. And I think it's, the plan itself is going to have to just be flexible. I think we will have a few surprises that'll be coming out for people in the new year that we can kick off a 50th, whether it's a virtual kickoff or a face-to-face one in very small groups. It's nothing that we're going to let go without some sort of a celebration.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sherry. I'm going to switch the camera over now to Deborah Fuster. We have a few questions for you, Deborah, so I'm just going to send you over here, bring you on. There we go. So welcome, Deborah. Deborah is, of course, the CFO and Vice President of Administration here at the college. And I have a couple of questions for you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks. Okay, first question for you, Deborah, is, has there been any discussion with the Ministry of Advanced Education about how deficits that have resulted from COVID will be handled? For example, will that deficit be written off, or will there be an expectation that post-secondary institutions make up this deficit over time?
Yes, definitely lots of conversations with the ministry around deficits. The entire post-secondary sector is in a definite position along with government. So it is a frequent topic, and I would say bi-weekly we're having those kinds of conversations. There is definitely an expectation that we make up the deficit over time, and each institution is having those conversations directly because we're all in different situations. We don't know what that time frame is. I think that's something government as a whole is still working on, and we'll just keep tracking it, and we'll keep communicating as we know more.
All right, thank you, Deborah. The next question that was submitted asks, should we be worried about a second round of layoffs?
No, at this time we have no plans for any additional layoffs. The college has done a really good job so far at exercising restraint and curbing expenditures where possible. And as long as we can continue to do that and just focus on those kinds of purchases that are essential to what we're doing, our program delivery, we should be able to meet the cost reduction target that we've set. Layoffs certainly are always a last resort for us, and we also want to make sure that we maintain our ability to grow and recover in a post-COVID future. And, you know, the ministry supports us with that. They want us to be able to, you know, sort of hit the ground running when people can come back with our services and programs.
All right, thanks for that, Deborah. Next question for you is similar in nature. It's over the last several years, the administrative layer of the college seems to have grown significantly. Will this layer be the first to go to help address budget issues?
Well, so I would start, you know, overall, the college as an institution has certainly got much larger in the last few years. And I think our budget 5 years ago on a consolidated basis would have been 120 million compared to this year's pre-COVID budget of 150 million. So, you know, whether it's program delivery, new streams, we are, as a whole, a much larger institution. And all employee groups have seen growth. Administration, yes, but faculty support, all areas have grown to support the extra or the increased activity that we're doing as an institution. And all employee groups have been impacted by layoffs. It included exempt, faculty, and support. So we're all in this together.
Thank you. Last question for you, Deborah. It's another long question, so I can break it up for you. But what is the status of the Young Building? Are there plans for renovation? Should the Camosun community be kept up to date with building renovation plans, including delays? And this is followed up by the Young Building looks so sad, neglected, and forlorn. Is the college leadership aware of the neglected image that the Young Building raised?
That is a long question, and yes, I would say, you know, the college is very aware of the Young Building and its conditions, and it's something that's been a challenge for us for a good many years, and we have been looking for solutions, none of which are easy, and all are expensive. The current plans for the renovation of the Young Building are to do a full remediation of the exterior, to do a complete renovation and reconfiguration of the interior, and to add additional space, and really sort of anchor that building to the rest of the college. And this was dealt with a bit in our master campus plan, and as well we did some work with an architecture firm to provide an opportunity assessment on the building. It's our top priority on our 5-year capital plan, which we submit to the ministry, and it has a estimated price tag of $95 million. So this is a significant project. To put money into just fixing the outside and just doing some minor improvements on the inside could be close to $30 million. And it doesn't make sense to us or to the ministry to put that kind of money in and not get any sort of extra value out of it. And it's an important building to us. It's an important building to the college system as a whole, one of the oldest in the system. So we'll wait to see what comes of that. The ministry has indicated to us, at least pre-election, that they had gone to government looking for more capital dollars for these kinds of large projects, so we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, you know, the hoarding around the building, that's to protect students and faculty and staff, and we need to continue to do that, and the building is still, well, would be in use if we were here on campus. So, you know, we're waiting to see what will come, and we won't know probably till May next year whether that project can be considered in this year. In the meantime, we do have smaller capital projects that are underway. We receive what we call major, minor, routine capital funding, and this money has continued to flow through COVID, and it's usually for repairing the roofs and exteriors of buildings, etc. And so these projects, as I say, are continuing. They're smaller dollars. They're less than $1 million or maybe $2.5 million. We're doing some work on the Wilna Thomas. We and the campus Lansdowne campus renewal tied to when we opened up the health building, and the ministry is providing much greater flexibility as to how we can use these funds that are typically just for maintenance projects, so that we can get some of this work done at least on a smaller basis in the meantime.
Deborah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and answering those questions. I'm just going to move the camera over now to Jeff Wilmshurst. He's our VP of Partnerships. Jeff, I just have one question for you today. How is the college going to manage the changes to travel restrictions affecting international students?
Thanks, Jen. That's a great question. We've put really solid plans in place for international students who may be able to arrive in Canada. You may be aware that the Canadian government has very recently changed the rules and will now be allowing students to come to Canada in the coming months. And we've put into place very clear quarantine rules, an opportunity for students to actually come and quarantine in some local hotels for the 14-day quarantine. And as many people know, we've been also working closely with all of our students through the Camosun Cares program, and we'll have a similar kind of program for students that need to come and quarantine. So we're cautiously optimistic about the opportunity for our students, for our international students, to arrive here, and we are monitoring, the number of students who are getting visas. What we do know is that there is a visa backlog, and that it probably will take some months for many students who've applied to come here to actually get a visa. So we don't anticipate there's going to be a huge influx of international students in the coming weeks or even in the coming couple of months. So probably looking into the new year. And by then we'll certainly be, and we are prepared now to be able to manage that. And by then we'll certainly have lots of experience in bringing our students in successfully.
That's great, Jeff. Thank you so much. Great news, sir. All right. I'd like to introduce Barb Severin. She's our Executive Director of Human Resources. And Barb, I just have one question for you as well.
Okay.
All right. Will Camosun be offering an employee flu clinic this year?
I'm delighted to be able to tell you that yes, we are. We're going to be offering 2 flu clinics on each campus in November. And we've put the facility through the Safe Start process so that we're observing all of the protocols and provincial health officer guidelines. So registration will be required. If you didn't catch it, the most recent Cam News this week had an article on it that talks about the times and actual dates and locations to be able to attend these clinics. And if for whatever reason people aren't able to make it to our offered clinics, we'd like people to consider trying to get them through their local pharmacy. Many people will be eligible for free vaccinations there as well. So yeah, so we will be offering the clinics and encourage people to attend them if they're able. Thanks, Jen.
All right, thank you so much, Barb. That's great. Okay. There we go. So I'd like to introduce Heather Cummings, our Vice President of Student Experience. So I have a few questions for you, Heather. The first one is, what are your plans to open the gyms? Students are asking why they're paying fees for services they cannot access.
Thanks, Jen. Well, I'm very happy to say that we are hoping to have the Lansdowne Fitness Center open sometime next week. Do want to reassure everyone that the services that students are relying on to be successful have been open, and they've been open since this all started. And we've been working very hard to make sure that those services are accessible and responsive to students so they can access them via email, phone, or video conferencing. So please, if you hear a student that needs to access a support service, please refer them to us because we are open and we are available.
That's great. Thank you so much, Heather. And I'm sorry, I thought I had a few questions for you, but I just had the one, so you're off the hook. Thanks so much, Heather. Okay, now I'd like to introduce John Boris. He's our Vice President of Education, and I do have a couple of questions for you, John. So welcome. The first question for you is, there is still confusion around masks and working together. Can students work close together if they are wearing a mask? It just seems like a different protocol for each department, like nursing, dentist, engineering, trades. If students can work close together, then why close down every other practical workstation? Oh, John, I think you might be on mute here.
Is that better?
There we go. Thanks, John.
Sorry about that. I'm trying so hard to stay quiet. It's a complex question, and it's a very good question. As we've worked through Safe Start, we of course asked all of those kinds of questions. Are there any kind of shortcuts for us just to roll out as simple a process as possible? And what we quickly realized is that although the post-secondary sector has a number of guidelines that's applied to it for working together safely in a learning environment, we also have to recognize the different sectoral requirements that are in place depending on which sector of our community that program represents. So, for example, hospitality management has a requirement to engage and be consistent with the standards for the hospitality sector. We have a reality that nursing and dental and the trades also all have different obligations to the sectors they represent. So what we've tried to do is be very consistent as we follow that process, but it has resulted in some different requirements for students. And certainly if there are specific questions that people have where they really do perceive that something is inconsistent, you're welcome to make contact and dig into so I and you can better understand what actually is happening. But to my knowledge, all of the differences are a result of those different sectoral requirements.
Great. Thanks, John, for that. The next question is, what do we do if we are starting to feel uncomfortable with the amount of students around, even if we are within the limits set out by the COVID safety team?
Thanks, Jen. You know, what I would do is encourage people to think in terms of what we encourage when faculty or staff are uncomfortable for any other reason. Really, it's quite legitimate for if a faculty member, for example, is uncomfortable with something that is occurring in class, it is reasonable to ask for behaviors to shift and to, if a student is unwilling to follow the directions, to ask them to leave. That is completely within our capability. I would urge, though, that immediately that conversation move up to the dean or director to whom you report, just to be sure that we are catching any concerns that are unusual, or if there are other processes we need to put in place so that people aren't put into uncomfortable situations. That's probably my best advice. So certainly your responsibility to keep the environment safe, that you have the right to ask people to comply with the standards that are in place. And if there isn't compliance, we have the right to ask people to leave, but then it's the follow-up to make sure that we aren't missing something in terms of the kind of communications we've given to students or others, and that we're absolutely certain that we're completely on consistent footing.
Great, thank you so much, John. I have one more question for you. Is the college attempting to limit regularization as a budget measure? And will the college consider hiring term instructors for fall 2021 term?
It's interesting. In one of the things I've looked at recently is the number of term faculty that have been hired for the fall 2020 term. And in some schools, those numbers are actually up. What we've done, and this was in the time beginning to plan for fall semester, I certainly looked through colleague and Camlink at numbers of registrations, and we did temporarily suspend some programs with low numbers. But where numbers are strong, we have been hiring term faculty this semester and will be next. There are, as I say, variations between schools, but the numbers are not dramatically different than in previous years. And there, as I say, are differences by school, but overall, not huge reductions.
Great, thank you so much, John. That was the last question I had for you.
Thanks, Jen.
Great job, thank you. So that concludes the end of the first half of the virtual gathering with the pre-submitted questions. And of course, my colleague Rodney Porter has been monitoring the chat function for the first half an hour so far. So he will have some questions gathered up and will be asking the members of the college executive to answer those questions. So I'm just going to turn it over to Rodney, but thank you very much. And thank you to all of you who did submit questions. That was really helpful and a great opportunity to share those with the rest of the college. So thank you very much. And here we are to Rodney.
Hi. Thanks, Jen. Before we go to some of the live questions, I just want to send it back briefly to Sherry Bell.
Hi again. We had some technical difficulties at the very beginning, and now I'm very pleased to introduce you to our board chair, Dr. Monty Bryant. Monty started as board chair in July, and he's here to give you opening comments in the middle of our virtual forum. Over to you, Monty.
So these are mid-virtual meeting comments. Since joining the board and being an educator and being retired, I had a lot of time to be able to, and I was interested to attend a lot of events at Camosun, workshops, Pro-D days, Distinguished Service Awards and award ceremonies. And the first thing that I noticed was an amazingly positive culture that exists at Camosun. And I just can tell you that isn't the case in every organization, but it's surely here. And it makes me proud to be part of the college. I'll just let you carry on with the rest of the questions, and I'll say a couple things just at the end. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Monty. My name is Rodney Porter. I'm the Executive Director of Communications and Marketing here. We've got a lot of questions coming through. Just as a reminder, if you click the thumbs up icon, that will send the question to the top. It will get the most likes. That's how we're going to try to address the questions. There's a lot of questions, so rather than taking them in chronological order, Sherry, the first question that we've got is around, are there any updates on working from home? And will it continue to be the status quo wherever possible for the foreseeable future?
I'm going to start to answer that, then I'm going to pass it over to Barb Severin. Working from home, I'm not certain what the question is around working from home. What I can tell you is that we are gradually bringing more students and employees back to campus as they go through the Safe Start process. More specific questions around working from home, I'm going to pass it over to Barb that she can perhaps fill you in on a few other things.
Okay, am I live? Am I live now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I think that what the college is doing is looking at developing some supporting documents that talk about working remotely, working from home, that outline kind of responsibilities and the different considerations, I guess, when we're working from home, how we keep our employees safe. And we're consulting with the unions right now, and we're working on developing a document that will give a little bit more guidance around those circumstances to support our employees as they're working off campus. So that's about all I can report on that for now. We're in discussions and working on draft documents as we speak.
Thanks, Barb. Sherry, our next question is, given the considerable effort made to make many of our courses online, can we hope to see many offerings remain online, or there be more blended offerings when things return to, quote, normal?
I'll start by answering that question. I'm sure John will want to add something to it as well. That's that question is really kind of the crux of moving forward, and what are we going to look like when we do return to our communities that are in a more normal state without COVID. And it's a discussion not just for courses, but for services and for colleges in general. When I talk to students and faculty as well, people miss the face-to-face interaction, but I am hearing stories of, this part of my course actually makes sense to do remotely, or I would be more interested in looking at a blended opportunity in the future. So I think there are lessons that we will learn, and I think that some of that will have to move forward as we move forward. What are we going to look like? I can't see any institution or business look exactly the same as they did before we got into the pandemic. John, do you have anything you might want to add to that?
I think that what you said, Sherry, is bang on. There are things I'm doing in the course of my workday that are so different than what I ever imagined. And some of it is exciting and better. And I've heard from students and faculty who are really excited about the flexibility, the access opportunities that are provided. And of course, all of us understand the downside of what we're doing as well. But as we emerge, there's no question that we'll want to look at what we've learned and hold on to the best of both worlds.
Thanks, John. Our next question is around the continuing education. Is there any expectation that continuing education courses or programs will be returning?
I'm going to pass that one over to Jeff Wilmshurst.
Thanks, Sherry. That's a great question, and thanks for that. We're, as everyone understands, we've had to suspend our continuing education programming for the time being because of the COVID situation and the fact that the vast majority of our continuing education programs are face-to-face and very difficult to put online. And so we anticipate that as long as we are in the world that we're in today, that we will continue focusing on contract training, and when we exit this world that we're in today, we'll certainly review where we're at and what our next steps will be with regard to how we approach providing education to the community.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Sherry, we've got a number of questions actually that are getting boosted to the top around CRA forms for employees to claim home office expenses. Is there any update on whether the form will be provided to employees? Will we be distributing it, or do employees need to request it?
So this is a nice position that I'm in. I can just pass the questions along. And I think Deborah knows that this one's coming her way. So over to you, Deborah.
Hi, yes, thank you, Sherry. That's a difficult question to answer actually right now. Typically, the T2200 process is related to sort of conditions of employment, and it is a process that is initiated by the employee. And so the employee has the obligation to monitor and track their expenditures, et cetera, and then works to get a signature from the employer. The COVID situation is we are anticipating some changes around the CRA process because of that, and changes to some of the requirements. But at this time, we don't have an update. So we could, I would suggest if somebody has any specific questions, I believe that we had something on our frequently asked question page, or I would suggest contacting maybe Chris Jones in finance, and he could provide some guidance on that. But overall, it is a CRA process, and there's an employee obligation and employer obligation, and we will have to work through some of those situations potentially. Oh, and one thing maybe I'll add, if I can, we have had some conversations around making sure that we are providing the equipment and the supplies that people are required to, are needing to do their work. And so that should continue, and we're making every effort we can to make sure that equipment is necessary, or equipment that is necessary is provided. And again, there are that directions or instructions about how to access that on our COVID site.
Thanks, Deborah. I hope that was useful. Sherry, our next question goes back to students. Many students are struggling with online learning. Is there the possibility to extend the drop-dead date with a refund?
That's already been done. I'm going to ask Heather to make some comments on the registrarial processes and drop-dead dates for students.
Hi, so my understanding is we have delayed or extended the fall registration deadline, and like anything else, I would need to get a little bit more information about this, but we normally are very student-centered in our responses. So if a student is requesting any special consideration for their particular circumstance with a delay, they just need usually to contact the registrar's office to make those arrangements. I guess it would be good to know kind of more specifics about what it is students are looking for, but we do already have an extension on the registration deadline for this fall.
Okay, thanks, Heather. Sherry, our next question, I think I can guess it's going to be Jeff. It's a question about the bookstores. When are the college's bookstores going to reopen? Both students and staff they see stores in the city are open, but our bookstore is closed.
I'll go to Jeff, but I just want to make a comment on that first. And I'm starting to repeat this, but what we want to be doing is very slowly going forward in opening the college in the safest way that we can. And so our first priority, and this was all through the summer, was to get the classrooms ready for the face-to-face interactions that had to take place. That was the first priority. And then we kind of moved to student supports and student services and looking at what were the students asking for. And so the library became open. We opened some spaces for students that were on campus that had to stay on campus between classes, and then the gym. And so as we gradually move through this world, the Safe Start process is going to continue to be utilized. So I'm going to pass it to Jeff to talk specifically about the bookstore, but I would say that about food services, bookstore, rentals, all of the ancillary services that kind of surround the college. It's not a hard close for good. It's where we continue to meet and look at every aspect of the effects of COVID on the college, and where do we have some flexibility now? Where do we need to kind of move but still stay as safe as we can? And also know that we might have to back off at a certain point. So Jeff, do you want to talk specifically about the bookstore?
Sure, thanks, Sherry. I think you've covered it really well, but just to say that, we have been trying to provide some services from the bookstore, and there have been obviously opportunities to pick up materials from the bookstore. And certainly, as Sherry says, we're monitoring, government advice, the ministry's advice, the health office advice in terms of what we can open, when we can open, and how we can do that safely. And our goal has been right from the beginning, to reiterate a little bit what Sherry's just said, to limit and not to encourage too much activity on the campuses in these early days. But obviously, as the pandemic goes forward and we begin to see how whether we are able to flatten the curve and so on, we probably will start to see some things begin to open on our campuses, and certainly the bookstore will be one of those early things that we would look at, because we do want to see people being able to access our services, whether it's food services or the bookstore or any of our ancillary areas, where we all feel the fact that things have been not operating as normally. We'd love to be able to go and easily get a coffee at Lansdowne, for example. And, I'm hopeful that in days not too far ahead, we'll be able to do that. And so, as Sherry says, we're talking about it every week. And I think that if we see and we get advice from the provincial health office in particular that says to us, look, things are pretty good and you're going to be able to open some more services, we'll be absolutely doing that. But we're waiting on that.
Thanks, Jeff. The next topic was around deficit. I know we addressed it before, but there's a very simple question. How will the college be managing the anticipated deficit?
Well, as you know, we put out a Cam News not too long ago saying that our deficit will probably be around 4.5, somewhere between $4 and $5 million. Now, I want to take us back a little bit to where we started when we started to anticipate deficit. We actually started at 10 million, and because this was at the very beginning of COVID. And at that point, we actually didn't know how many students would come back. And so I have to kudos to everyone that has been supportive to engage with students, to have them return. You've probably heard that we have about 1,400 international students that stayed here, and they've been connected with, and I think have been supported quite nicely. So as things unfolded, we could see where the pinch points would be, and we looked at, of course, courses that didn't have a way of supporting themselves, really. And there are areas that are not going to improve. So parking revenue is one. The bookstores, the ancillary services. Now, even if we opened them or opened a little bit more, they still wouldn't be up to the level that they need to be to have a balanced budget. So what are we going to be doing? We're going to, as Deborah said, be working with government, because as far as there's a question about layoffs. We can't actually run the college and have the courses run and not have people to teach them, or not have people working in the library. I mean, to continue our business, we need to continue to have people working. And when I think about the mitigation strategies, I think we've done a lot of them. I mean, closing CE was a really difficult decision, but I think we've really looked at that. And there's certain revenues that we're just not going to generate it. We save, of course, a lot of money because nobody's traveling, so that's a substantial savings. So we'll keep looking at mitigation strategies, and of course, and again, we do this every week. We continually look at where can we bring that deficit down lower. But at some point you can't. And I think that, as Deborah said, the ministry knows that. There's 25 public post-secondary institutions, and everybody has a deficit of some level or another. And we will just continually work with the ministry. They're looking at our Q2 numbers, as they are with every post-secondary institution. And I think after the election, we'll hear a little bit more definitive detail on how that will look going forward. So revenue generation is a problem, but having students come to campus and work with us virtually, because I was talking to an instructor the other day who had some virtual students all over the world and in Canada in a class. So I think we'll just keep working at this to get it as low as we possibly can and do the very best job that we can for our students.
Thanks, Sherry. Our next question is very specifically for Barb. Does the Human Resources Department have Indigenous staff to assist in the new Camosun College Faculty Association cultural leave for Aboriginal employees?
Well, that's a brand new provision, and somebody was paying attention at the session this morning. Nicely done. We haven't really looked into it in terms of what kind of support it's going to be required for people who may be seeking leave under that article. But like any other leave, requests are submitted through the workplace leaders, the chairs, the deans, and whatever. And if there's any question about the appropriateness of the request, then they come to HR for assistance and guidance in terms of whether or not to approve the application. So that's a bit of a kind of backdoor answer to the question, but we've never dealt with it before, and we're looking forward to supporting this new kind of leave in those circumstances.
Thanks very much, Barb. Next question. Will there be any opportunities for employee teams or small groups of students to come on campus to have meetings or team building events, particularly before the weather turns bad? These could be held outside to support physical distancing.
I'll take that one, Rodney. I think there are opportunities, and again, we're all using the Safe Start process, and I think that if there is a demonstrated need, we'll put the application in through the Safe Start process, and of course, then Health and Safety takes a look at how to keep it as safe as possible. So we're not saying no, we're asking you to use the process.
Thanks, Sherry. I think, noting the time, it's 3:56. We've got time for one more quick question. And is it possible to get more laptops to loan to students to meet the need for students on the waitlist looking to borrow a laptop?
I know that the library, so Sybil Harrison and Ted Pennell have been working together on ensuring that we don't have a huge digital divide. We want to make sure that students have access to Wi-Fi and to laptops. I'm going to ask Heather if she wants to make any more comments on the availability of laptops through the library loaning program.
Great, thanks, Sherry. Actually, we were just able to purchase some additional laptops over the last number of weeks. Our partners in the foundation were able to raise some funds that we were able to utilize to purchase those laptops. Certainly, as we monitor demand, we are looking for opportunities to invest further. One of the conversations we've recently had with the Student Society was, could we utilize some funds through the new student services fee, perhaps, to help purchase some technologies to support students? So it's not a definite yes, but it's definitely something we are monitoring. It is our wish to make sure that we can reduce as many barriers as possible for our learners. So it's a big maybe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone who submitted a question, and thank you to everyone who clicked the thumbs up to boost it. Hopefully we answered the topmost questions, bearing in mind the time. And also this program, this gathering is being recorded, so you can come back and view it and read it. I'd like to turn things over now to our board chair, Monty, and to Sherry for final remarks. Monty, I'm going to turn it over to you first, if you can unmic yourself, and if you've got the ability to turn on the camera, although I know there's been a couple of technical issues.
As far as I can see, my camera's on. However, I'll start with my remarks. I really appreciated the opportunity to hear the questions and the answers today. The team has been really excellent at our board meetings and keeping us apprised of everything that's been going on. I mentioned the positive culture I've observed at Camosun, and there seems to be this pervasive commitment to doing the best possible job to support student learning. And I would just say that this board shares that commitment, and it is the most effective board I've ever been on in terms of diversity, experience, and expertise. So that, along with the positive culture at Camosun, an excellent admin team, this all should help us weather these challenging times. So thank you.
Thank you, Monty. It's great to have a board that really truly cares about what we do and is willing to help in many ways. So thank you for being here today, and thank you all for joining us today. I just want to say a huge heartfelt thank you for everything that you do for our students in this really difficult time. And I know many of you are dealing with personal or family issues, working in a home environment, perhaps for the first time. And, you know, I'm always incredibly thankful and in awe at just the dedication and the perseverance of our staff, our faculty, and our students. And just thanks for being here today. This just shows you're interested, and I hope we were able to get to the crux of your questions. I know some of the questions, if we were doing this face-to-face, I would ask a follow-up of the individual, and that's hard to do virtually. So hopefully that you got as much as you can out of the forum today. And before our Thanksgiving weekend this weekend, I want to wish everybody a safe and healthy and probably a little different Thanksgiving weekend, and know that I am very thankful for what you do for our college. Thank you.